Ecosystems. In the IT world, and people might disagree with this, but this is my opinion only. I do work for Zoom. Full disclosure, I'm not a figurehead for Zoom or a spokesman for Zoom. I'm just talking about technology. And these are just my ideas, right? And so I've been thinking about this as I've been talking to partners and customers, is that I think there's three of them. I think there's three, and there's probably even debate for more. But I think that here are the three. That everyone, by the way, when I say everyone, probably every one individual person, as well as enterprise, as well as small business, as well as educational, everyone probably uses these three. Apple is the first one. There's not any particular order. But Apple is the first ecosystem. And I say it's an ecosystem because it's a self-contained ecosystem in that they are a hardware vendor. They are a software vendor. They have their own OS. They have their own cameras, mice, laptops, desktops, Mac minis, watches, phones, of course. They're an entire ecosystem that doesn't really need anyone else to work holistically. They even have their own productivity suite with Keynote, and I don't even know what the other ones are. I'm sure somebody does. You don't even need anything else beyond the Apple ecosystem, and you could do your job. Whether it's a knowledge worker, a creative content producer, a student, you can do your job in an entire Apple ecosystem. Let's go to the second one, Google. You can do your job with just the Google ecosystem. Chromebooks from hardware, Google Nest, they're a hardware company. Obviously, their phone platform, Google Docs, Google Meet from a UCaaS perspective. You could literally do your entire job inside of the Google ecosystem. I'm not saying one's bad or one's good. These are just my observations. The third one, probably the obviously biggest one, maybe I think Apple's actually bigger, is Microsoft, right? But from an enterprise perspective, they're probably the world leader here from a productivity suite. Certainly from an OS side of things, I would think the majority of people had Windows OS on their desktops or laptops, but they're an entire ecosystem as well, right? They produce hardware. They have the Surface. They have mice. They have cameras. They have Xbox. They have Windows OS, right? They have a server. They have a cloud. They have a productivity suite. They have a security platform. Of course, they have a UCaaS platform. They are an entire file repository, OneDrive and SharePoint. That's an entire ecosystem as well. You could choose to live in either of these three, and you could be productive from an IT organization, from a knowledge worker, information worker. You could choose any one of those three as a knowledge worker, information worker. Even at a CIO level, you could, if you really wanted to have some sort of draconian measures, you could force down one on everyone and still be productive. But would you be as productive if you let users choose what ecosystem they're in? And that's an important part of this talk. My Zoom t-shirt's coming in the way. It's an important part of this talk because ecosystems could be choice driven. Think about that. You as maybe a content creator or a student, maybe you're in visual arts or production, you might like that Apple ecosystem because there's more choices there. Final Cut Pro and Adobe and Camtasia, all these things that work better, maybe arguably better in the Apple ecosystem. If you're a content creator in the arts, again, you'd want to stay in that ecosystem. What if I was a CIO and I forced you into the Google ecosystem? Said, Google is going to be your choice. And you're like, but that's not how I work productively. That's not my workflow. I want choice as a user. And I'm choosing to use Apple because I'm the most productive. I'm the most efficient. I have the best tool sets in that world. These are just examples. Content creator, right? What if you're a knowledge worker, an average knowledge worker, right? You're Susie in HR, you're just cranking out Word documents and benefit PDFs and stuff like that. You might live in a Microsoft ecosystem. You might have your Dell laptop that's running Windows 11. You might use PowerPoint for all your presentations and Word for your documentation. You might be Bob in accounting and have to use Excel for all your number stuff, right? Your nerd number stuff. You might live in that Microsoft ecosystem because you're collaborating in that. But you can just as well live in the Google ecosystem. Everything I just said with Word and Excel, you could do with Slides, Google Slides and Google Docs. The point is you have choice as a user on what ecosystem works best for you. Is there another ecosystem that I'm missing? If I am, please tell me. I'm just curious your thoughts. These are just my thoughts. So there's three major ecosystems that we all live in. And we don't live in silos in this ecosystem. You can cross these ecosystems. I can tell you right now, I'm running an Apple Mac right now. I also run Google Docs. I also run Microsoft Outlook, maybe Microsoft Teams. I run Zoom. I run WebEx. Now, see the difference? We're getting into different things meshing together. I run in all three ecosystems. I have an Android room system on Zoom Rooms. I have a Microsoft Windows room system on Microsoft Teams Rooms. I live in all three ecosystems because that's my choice. One, I'm a nerd. I get it. And I play a lot more than probably the average knowledge worker, information worker does. But the point is, I am more productive because I have choice between what ecosystem I live in. I use Google for certain things, Microsoft for certain things, Apple for certain things. And I know what those do. Those ecosystems work for me. Those make me the most productive. If I had somebody telling me I can only use one, I'd probably have a little mutiny. And two, I wouldn't be as good of an employee. I wouldn't have access to all the great tools that I use to do my job. So I talk a lot about CIOs, talk a lot to CIOs about this choice, about giving users the choice to pick what ecosystem works for them. I keep saying this word platform. And the reason I keep saying the word platform is because that's my next slide and I keep seeing it on my screen. Platforms differ than ecosystems because they're not holistic solutions for the average knowledge worker, information worker, consumer even. Apple doesn't have switches. You know switches? Cisco, Palo Alto. You know its phone systems? Avaya, Cisco, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Mitel, ShoreTel. Pick one. The point is platforms work in conjunction with ecosystems. They work inside of the ecosystem, regardless of which one you choose. So let's talk about platforms. This is where Zoom comes into play. Zoom is a UCaaS platform, a unified communication or unified collaboration as a service platform. It does everything in that UCaaS platform. And then you can pipe it into whatever ecosystem you want. You want to run Zoom on Mac? Fine. Google? Fine. Android? Fine. Microsoft? Fine. It runs in all of these ecosystems. WebEx, probably the same thing, right? Cisco as a platform is a primarily networking hardware platform. They also have UCaaS built into that. They have phone as well, but they don't extend beyond that. They do actually do a lot more than that, but I think you're getting the point. They are a platform player. They are not an ecosystem. You need all of these things to fit together. You can't just run one ecosystem. Well, I guess you could, now that I say that. You could choose to run one ecosystem and choose to run one platform, right? But would that make your users happy? Would that make them more productive? Would that make them more efficient in what they do? I would argue no. Maybe I would argue yes. You tell me. What's your thoughts? Platforms work in the ecosystem. And then we're going to extend that into bigger platforms versus smaller platforms. If we say in that UCaaS space, right, there's a lot of different players here. Microsoft has a UCaaS solution, certainly do, with Microsoft Teams. Zoom has a UCaaS solution. RingCentral, WebEx, Cisco, they all have platform solutions for UCaaS. Can you live with just one? You could live with this one if you only talk to those people, right? I could live in the Microsoft Teams ecosystem as long as I was talking and collaborating and communicating with everybody else in Microsoft Teams. If you're using anything else beyond that, I can't talk to you. I can't collaborate with you. There's a little asterisk there, Mio. Don't, Tom. I know you were saying, hey, wait a second. The point is, when you choose your UCaaS platform, you can choose it for the majority of your users, but that doesn't let everybody have their choice in their platform, in their UCaaS platform. Not everyone in the world chooses one. We have, I just named 5. We had RingCentral, we had Zoom, we had Microsoft Teams, WebEx. Could you even say maybe even a Slack is a UCaaS platform? Probably not, because you have to then partner with somebody if you're a Slack. You don't have a phone system, right? You don't have a room system. You need a Google Meets or a Zoom to fit in there. The point is, now, when you are giving choice at the ecosystem level, you also have to give choice at the platform level. Users are going to pick what tool works best for them. They have different workflows and they have different needs using different tools. Forcing your users to just use one platform probably can work, but not as effectively as coexisting with other platforms. And that's clearly where we're having that discussion with a lot of customers, is that at an enterprise level, most people are probably Microsoft users. And then they're going to live in that Microsoft ecosystem. So then how do we extend that to other platforms? Well, we give choice is really what we do. We give choice on that. And then we finally get into ecosystems, platforms, and then we kind of go into apps, right? We have this apps discussion. Apps are individual components that fit into a platform. Platforms fit into ecosystems. We have to have all of these things. Apps, I'll give you an example. Candy Crush, that's an app. It's not a platform. It's a great game. I play it all the time. It's not a platform. It's an app. WhatsApp, that's an app. FaceTime's an app. All these are individual apps that fit into a bigger platform, that fit into a bigger ecosystem. Letting your users have a choice of what apps works best for them leads to picking a platform that works best for them, leading to pick an ecosystem that works best for them. As a CIO, you have to make all these choices, right? As an IT director, you have to make all these choices. Utopia would be, hey, I just want to make one choice. Yeah, that's Utopia. Utopia, I want to make one choice and one choice only. And I want that one choice to fit every single different workflow, every single different need, every single different tool. Every need of the user is going to be in one app, one platform, one ecosystem. That's Utopia. We don't live in Utopia, people. And you as an IT director, CIO, CTO, probably are going to need different ecosystems for a holistic solution. You're going to need different platforms for a holistic solution. And of course, you're going to need different apps. And that's okay. That's okay. Everyone wants to have this utopian concept. And maybe we will get there sometime. We're not there today. We need all these things to work together, to coexist together. I know I've been on a little bit of a soapbox. I don't even know how long this video is going. The point is, every customer is different. Every user is different. Every department is different. They all have different requirements for what works to get their job done. Our job in IT is to provide solutions, to provide support, to provide ideas and thought leadership in this regard. Helping users access these tools is also our job. Helping users understand how these tools work together is also our job. There's not one solution for everybody. There's a bunch of solutions for just a bunch of people.